Today on r/IDontWorkHereLady, a Walmart manager goes full Karen, a line cutter gets shut down, and a salon meltdown turns epic. Let's dive in.
Fired from Walmart. About a year ago, I worked selling solar panel systems. This job required me to wear khakis and a blue polo when I was meeting customers. One particular day, after meeting with a homeowner, I had to stop by my local Walmart to get more pens and a notepad for my work bag. I pretty consistently got asked if I worked there by other customers, and I would help if I knew what they were after, but I always told them that I didn't work there, and they were always kind. So this fateful day, I grabbed my pens and paper and checked out in the self-checkout section. As I was leaving, I heard someone say behind me, "And just where do you think you're going?" Now, a little about me. I try to mind my own business as much as possible and don't like to get wrapped up in other people's drama. When I hear outbursts like that in public, I assume it's not because of me. I also try to follow the rules as much as possible. In this case, I assumed it wasn't me because I paid for everything, so I continued to my car. Roughly 30 feet from my car, I hear again, "Hey, you, stop." I did turn around at that one because that's typically what you say to a thief. An employee who can only be described as a Karen was marching towards me, 8 different kinds of angry. She started reaming into me about how I was abandoning my shift and I wasn't supposed to get off for another 3 hours. I was standing there bewildered because I genuinely had no clue what she was talking about. And I tried to let her know I don't work there, but she wouldn't let me get a word in. Eventually, she says, "Forget it, you're fired." I waited about 5 seconds and told her, "I don't work here. I've never worked here." She stared at me, muttered sorry, and ran back inside. I'm still not sure what happened, but that's my tale of being fired from a job I never worked at. Hope it brought you some joy. But it didn't end there. I've been banned from that Walmart. The manager in the story apparently has a memory like an elephant, kind of looks like one too, and is still working there today. I went in to pick up a couple of things and return one thing for my wife. I'm waiting in the return line, and the person in front of me is having some issue with the return. So the employee helping them calls for a manager. It's the same lady. Recognized her immediately. And as it turns out, she recognized me, kind of. She points at me and tells me I'm not allowed to shop at this Walmart, and if I don't leave, she'll call the police. I asked why I was banned. She said she didn't remember, but she knew I was. So I left. My wife and I have been cackling over this for a couple of days and thought you'd find it funny as well. And finally, the karma hit hard. Recently, my family moved to a new neighborhood around the corner from the Walmart. After meeting the new neighbors, I found out one worked at this Walmart. I told her the story because I still think it's hilarious, and she let me know that manager, let's name her Gertrude, was arrested and fired. Old Gertie apparently had a history of arbitrarily banning people like she did to me, but nobody really ever complained, so nothing ever got done. She was just shifted from department to department. One day, late last year, she got a little too aggressive with an off-duty cop and tried to forcefully remove her from the store, which inevitably led to Gertrude punching the cop. She was arrested and finally fired. My neighbor and most of her coworkers rejoiced. Karma can be a beautiful thing.
Getting fired from a job you never had, that's already ridiculous. But then getting banned for no reason and the manager not even remembering why? That's Olympic-level Karen behavior. And here's what kills me. Usually, the Karen is the customer yelling, "I want your manager." But this time, the Karen was the manager. Like, where do you go from there? Who's she gonna scream for? Her reflection in the break room mirror? It's peak irony. And the best part? She took the power trip so far, she actually punched an off-duty cop. That's setting the whole book on fire. Karma didn't just knock, it kicked down the door, dragged her out, and slammed it shut behind her. Absolute chef's kiss. And speaking of people who think rules don't apply to them, wait until you hear the next story. A spoiled woman who tried to skip an entire line just by insisting she knew the bouncer.
Spoiled woman insists I let her skip the line. In New York City nightlife, bouncers at large bars are usually black men. Fitting that demographic, drunk strangers somewhat frequently assume I am security. Usually it's somewhat funny, like people handing me their ID if I am anywhere near the door, or asking where the bathroom is while I am clearly dancing with friends. One evening in my early 20s, I was on the Lower East Side chatting with friends while waiting in a long line for a popular bar. A woman in her late 20s, who I had never met, walks up from the street, interrupts our conversation, and states, "You're the bouncer who said I could skip the line." "No, that wasn't me," I respond politely while trying to turn back to my friends. We were nowhere near the front. "Yes, it was you. You said I could skip the line," she insists, drawing the attention of others in line. Uncharacteristically, I snap back, "It wasn't me, so get to the back of the line." The small crowd within earshot stifles their laughs as the lady slinks to the back of the line around the block.
You've got to love the confidence. Imagine walking up to a random stranger in line, insisting he's the bouncer and demanding VIP treatment. That's not confidence, that's pure delusion in high heels. And here's the kicker. Everyone else in line saw it too. She didn't just get told no, she got told get to the back of the line in front of an audience. That's a walk of shame you don't come back from. I bet she was praying the sidewalk would open up and swallow her whole. Honestly, this is what happens when entitlement meets imagination. Some people will literally invent authority figures out of thin air just to get their way. Spoiler alert, it never works, and it always blows up in the most public way possible. And speaking of people mistaking strangers for employees, wait until you hear about the woman who confused a redhead for a completely different stylist and went full meltdown in a salon.
Apparently, I work at a salon now. Last time I went to a public salon, my stylist was running late, so I was just walking around, browsing the photos, as you do. A woman comes in and starts telling me how much I messed up her hair, very loudly. I just kind of stood there and laughed a little, which, whoops, infuriated her. I was wearing all black, so I just wrote it off as a mistake. And whatever. She storms over to the front desk and demands to see the owner to talk about my poor haircutting skills. The owner is deeply confused when she points to me, so she looks up who her stylist was in the appointments. I'm just chilling when the owner brings over the person that did her hair so they could help adjust it and get it right. I know I was wearing all black, but I do not know how she got us confused. Her stylist was a black woman. I'm not black, with black locks. I'm a redhead, no locks, and was about 5 inches taller than me. We made eye contact and both had to not start laughing while this woman ranted.
This is peak I don't work here lady energy. You're standing there in all black, and suddenly you're the villain who ruined someone's hair. The fact she doubled down even after the owner got involved, that's Olympic-level commitment to being wrong. And the best detail? Her actual stylist looked nothing like you. Different hair, different height, different everything. That's not a mix-up. That's just tunnel vision fueled by entitlement. Honestly, if you're going to start a public rant, at least pick the right target. Otherwise, you end up starring in a comedy routine for free. So which story had you laughing harder? The Karen screaming at a bouncer, the salon meltdown, or the Walmart manager who managed to fire a stranger and still get herself arrested? Tell me in the comments. That's it for today's wild ride through r/IDontWorkHereLady, where uniforms mean nothing and confidence is delusion. If that gave you secondhand embarrassment or a good laugh, give it a big thumbs up. Drop your favorite I don't work here moment in the comments. I want to hear your stories too. And if you're not subscribed yet, you know what to do. Hit that button, ring the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully not getting yelled at in a Target parking lot. Bye.